Some stories are not meant to accuse. They are meant to be understood. Shao Ran was 25 years old when she became a whale trainer. Like many others in the industry, she didn't enter this world for money or fame. She entered it because she loved animals, because she believed that being close to them meant gentleness, trust, even healing. The whale she was assigned to train was beluga. Her name was Sophie. Sophie was white, powerful, and silent, and she had been confined for a very long time. People often ask whether killer whales or belugas attack humans out of cruelty. Shao Ran is clear about this. Globally, there are very few cases where whales deliberately kill trainers. They don't act out of sudden rage. What Sophie did that day was not impulsive. During one performance, the moment Shao Ran entered the water, she saw it in Sophie's eyes, the whites fully exposed. That look meant danger. Sophie bit her legs and began to drag her downward. It was only then that Shao Ran felt real fear, because Sophie wasn't just attacking, she was trying to drown her. Whales know how drowning works. They are mammals, like us. They understand breath, panic, and exhaustion. Sophie clamped down and swam violently, pulling Shao Ran deeper and deeper. Shao Ran couldn't fight back. There was nothing she could do. At one point, Sophie hesitated. She changed the direction slightly, as if thinking. Shao Ran remembers believing, in that moment, that the whale was kinder than humans. A human with that much power would not hesitate. A human would kill. Shao Ran stopped struggling. She held on to Sophie's gaze, sending out what she later called signals of pleading. Who doesn't want to leave? Sophie swam towards the far wall of the pool. Then she turned her head and looked at Shao Ran one last time, and she made a new decision. She swam back, gently lifted Shao Ran's feet, and pushed her toward the edge, placing the person she hated, the person she had every reason to destroy, back onto land, a safe place. What followed was perhaps the most disturbing part. The music never stopped. The audience saw nothing. Shao Ran climbed out, then jumped back into the water to finish the show. The applause that followed was louder than usual. To the crowd, it looked heroic. This brave young woman returning to perform after a frightening moment, a symbol of humans mastering nature. Inside the pool, Sophie was exhausted, and Shao Ran stood on her back, waved, smiled, and mimed affection. Later, face to face in the water, Shao Ran saw Sophie crying. The tears were real, thick, heavy, rolling from her eyes. Shao Ran cried too. They performed the rest of the show while both of them were crying. The audience, of course, couldn't see any of this. That night, Shao Ran went home and took photos of her injuries. Her body was covered in bruises as if she had been abused. Not long after, the marine park was renovated. Sophie was transferred to another facility. Shao Ran never visited her again. She knew she couldn't bring Sophie sunlight, or freedom, or hope. Sophie died before she was 20. In the wild, belugas can live 70 or 80 years. Sophie died at the human equivalent of a teenager. The pool she lived in was 10 meters long and 7 meters deep, like locking a person in a tiny bathroom for life. Belugas have extremely sensitive hearing, yet they were forced to endure constant music and noise and perform behaviors that made no sense to them. This wasn't an isolated case. Another whale Shao Ran worked with, nicknamed Hua Hua, was covered in scars. She knew she wasn't liked. Even a slight frown from a human would make her retreat. The night before Hua Hua died, she behaved strangely, like a cat seeking comfort. She pressed close to Shao Ran, asking to be touched. Shao Ran pushed her away. The next morning, Hua Hua was dead. Whales can choose to stop breathing. They can sink to the bottom and end their lives. What made it worse was what happened afterward. 2 younger belugas tried all night to push Hua Hua back to the surface so she could breathe. Their mouths were torn open, flesh split and bleeding as they struggled to save her. That guilt never left Shao Ran. She left the industry in 2016 after 5 years. When she walked away, she was no longer the same person who had entered it, bright, excited, believing she was part of something pure. She stepped away from the pool. She did not step away from the animals. Today, Shao Ran no longer calls herself a trainer. She is now an animal protection advocate, not because she sees herself as morally superior, not because she stands against those who are still inside, but because someone has to speak from another position, one that does not require silence. Shao Ran speaks directly to those still inside the industry. She says this: "We are not enemies. We stand on the same side." She knows that trainers and caretakers are the ones closest to the animals. They are often the only comfort these animals have. The industry will not disappear overnight. The animals already exist. There is nowhere for them to go. For now, their only hope is the people who work with them every day. But she asks one thing: do not let your position erase your conscience. If you are willing to face the truth of this suffering, if you are willing to admit it, then we are together, not fighting each other, but trying, in different places, to do something rooted in love. Shao Ran believes change is happening. She sees it in children, 9-year-olds, teenagers who already refuse animal performances. She sees adults who are brave enough to speak their kindness out loud. And maybe that bravery is where this story is meant to end. Not with blame, but with the quiet question of whether we are willing to listen to those who cannot speak our language, but who have been speaking all along.